things. We are here to talk about solidarity in action, creating mutual aid and community response teams. We are so incredibly pleased to be joined today by our special guest who is so knowledgeable about mutual aid and community response teams. You're going to hear from her in just a second, but we've got a little bit of housekeeping to do first. So we'll go to the next slide. You're just going to hear from me for about 5 minutes, and then I promise I'm going to get you to the person that you're here to talk to. Want to talk about the agenda? We are hoping that you feel welcome. We're all friends and family here, so welcome. If this is your first time here, joining us for our Solidarity in Action speaker series, I want to just let you know that we are here for this series to give you the skills that you need in order to show up for our community members, for our folks, our marginalized folks in our community who are under threat given the rising authoritarian regime that we are facing right now, particularly in the times that we are currently facing. We know that communities that have always historically been under threat are even more so right now. All you got to do is turn on the news just for a moment, and we know that it is our time not only to fight against what we don't like, but one surefire way to fight it well against what we don't like is to advance our values. And the way we advance our values is by standing up for those people who are around us, who are marginalized and facing threats. And I am so incredibly proud of the work that you are doing. And so then we're going to introduce our speaker, Stephanie Rurik from the Mutual Aid Network. And then we're going to come back for some announcements and special and next steps. Super excited about the applications that we have seen coming in. And we have got some special announcements about awards, funding awards that we'll be sending out in the next few days. Next slide. I'm going to talk fast. So housekeeping. We are recording this call. The recording will be going out in the next 24 to 48 hours. We will send a follow-up email, all of the links that Stephanie is going to share with you today, so don't worry about it. People always say, will you be sending the recording? Absolutely, yes, and all of the links and materials. Captions are available if you can better access this call by using closed captioning. Down at the bottom, click the CC. We're going to ask you to save the chat for a conversation that is related to the call that you want to have, conversation that you want to have with each other. We're going to ask you to, if you have programmatic questions, we had close to 5,300 people register for this call. So if you have programmatic questions, it would be very helpful to us if you save those questions and email us. We're going to drop the email in the chat, but it is AOV, no, send it to C3programs at indivisible.org. If you have programmatic questions, send those questions to C3programs at indivisible.org. Save the conversations, save the chat for constructive conversations, resource sharing, experiences about building mutual aid, uh, and community response teams. If for some reason you see something in the chat that is abrasive or abusive or inappropriate, please flag it for one of the panelists. We are here to make sure that we keep that chat constructive. If you have questions that are specific for the topic, questions that you would like Stephanie to answer, please use the Q&A feature. Do not use the Q&A feature for questions about when are you going to respond to the grants? How can I apply for the grants? Please, there's lots of people on the call. Please save the Q&A questions for Stephanie, please, for our speaker. If you see a question that really resonates with you, please upvote that question. Don't ask the question again. That way Stephanie can say, you know what, people are really interested in this question. Let me make sure that I answer it. And chat will be opened. We're going to be closing the chat in just a minute, but we're going to be opening it as Stephanie asks questions. So you'll have chance for the chat, but then we'll be closing it. If chat is distracting for you, you can always close the chat. Next slide. I think that was everything. Um, oh, yep, that was everything. So now I want to introduce to you our special guest. I have had so much fun stalking Stephanie and getting to learn from her. She has such a vast amount of information about mutual aid. It's inspiring, but it's almost scary. She's just been doing this work. Stephanie is based in Madison, Wisconsin. They just do amazing progressive work in Wisconsin, period. But she's based in Madison, Wisconsin. She is the founder and director of the Madison Mutual Aid Network Cooperative and the Global Humans United in Mutual Aid Networks. Global, y'all. When I say global, she's going to share the map. She is connected to United, to Mutual Aid Networks global. When I say global, I mean global. You'll see. It's a new type of networked cooperative, creating means for everyone to discover and succeed in the work they want to do with the support of their community. In addition to her work in growing grassroots up economic and community regeneration, Ririk is the co-owner of a really cool coffee shop called Mother Fool's Coffee House, which is in addition to bring just a really cool vegan coffee house. The reviews are amazing. If you're ever in Madison, make sure you stop by. That is actually part of her mutual aid work. Can't wait to hear more about it. She's also a musician, so she's cool. So I'm going to stop talking about her. I could talk more because I've been stalking her for so long. But y'all don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from Stephanie. So with that, I'm going to shut up and pass it over to Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's very exciting to be here, and I'm thrilled to see who's here. So yes, thanks for inviting people to put their names and locations in the chat. And I know I didn't see everyone, but I've seen college friends and I've seen new friends and a number of people from right where I am in Madison, Wisconsin, and all over the country. So it's inspiring to see you here. And I am going to just share a little bit about who I am and how I came to this. Kim, thank you for the introduction. And just you gave a taste of some of the things that I've been doing. So being a musician, I named my genre unpop for unpopular music, but it expresses what I want to express. I lucked into co-owning a little corner coffee house, which if you've ever done anything with trying to run a small business, it is not easy. And all of the economic forces really encourage you to take the low road, to use the cheapest, most horrendous disposable products, to contract with the cheapest service to get your towels. And there's a lot of economic pressure to grow and consolidate. So being a musician, running a little coffee house. I also used to work for Greenpeace environmental organization. And during that time really came to understand about the fake jobs versus environment argument, for example. But really got my eyes opened to the way that economic forces drive environmental quality off a cliff. So I think we all know how those things happen. There's a lot of dynamic in our economy that drives toward exploitation. So I have been really, and then I also was really active in social justice issues. So my perspective has been about mass incarceration, over policing, over surveillance and the huge disparities in our criminal system, the huge racial disparities, the huge economic disparities. So I got really involved in that, and also again saw the economic forces are driving that the wrong direction. So I came to understand that in order to make more of a difference in the things that I really care about, I need to look for an economic solution, economic underpinning. And so I'll back up a little bit into the journey, but not very much because we have a lot of forward moving things to get on with today. But in that whole journey, I ended up really learning about different economic practices over time, and space, and current economic practices happening in different cultures, including right around me in Amish country. And learned there are a lot of different ways we can structure economic life, and that we can just get on with it. So you can hear from my bio, I've been somewhat entrepreneurial, and I realized we can be somewhat entrepreneurial in reshaping how we approach economic life so we can have better outcomes. So what we've ended up terming it is a neighborly global economy, and I hope that you'll get a taste of what that means. I already feel it in this group, actually. But a reason we've been using the term mutual aid networks since the 2014, actually. So well before it caught on for COVID relief and other disaster relief applications so it's become much more popularized recently. A reason we chose the term mutual aid network is, first of all, it exactly describes what we're going for as a network of mutual support. But also, we really liked the acronym MAN because of the American context of going to do drudgery every day, working for the man. And what we want to do is actually co opt business as usual and actually create different dynamics so you can have your dream life that supports you, supports thriving life for you, your family, your neighborhood, your watershed, your city, your region, your nation, and the world that supports thriving life. So you can go work for the man, and accomplish what you want to in the world. So that's how we came up with that term. And I consider it to be tongue in cheek. I know sometimes people don't really like to say the man, and it's totally fine not to. We have networks called the WIMAN, the Wisconsin Mutual Aid Network, the Wellness Oriented Mutual Aid Network. We call our global network the Humans. But basically, it is about making networks of mutual support. So, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk briefly about politics with a little p, even though it's capitalized here, but briefly about sort of the political context for what we're doing. Then we'll go into principles, and then practices and projects we'll spend a little more time on. I'm going to ask you some questions about what your dreams are, and then peer support. So my goal for today is that you leave here knowing how you can proceed to accomplish your own dreams, whatever they are. So politics. I already mentioned me and how I came to the economic picture for how to shift our situation. I've heard a little bit from the chat about who and where you are, but I am interested. I will ask you to share a little bit more about your dreams in a minute. And everyone we know. Um, I am just going to mention the point that we're at right now in terms of division being the order of the day. It's not by accident. My perspective is that there are reasons that a small number of people have chosen to declare ownership over a lot of resources and dole them out to other people, or not dole them out as they see fit. And the place where we've all ended up, everyone has been buffeted by a lot of varied forces. we realize there are whole groups of people who've been excluded from economic life. We know about redlining, the history of redlining, keeping African American families out of certain neighborhoods, preventing people from building generational wealth. And then obviously histories of slavery, histories of exploited labor, people who have disabilities being shut out of being able to engage fully in life. So we've had a lot of forces of division, and they have been really ramping up lately. I feel super grateful that I learned about some of these cooperative and solidarity and trust building economic practices a long time ago. So I have been able to focus on what we can build together. And I've been able to get a chance to see that it works. So people, I'm sure, are familiar with the term resist and build. Maybe you've gone to an event called Resist and Build. Resist, resist what's wrong. Definitely support your neighbors in the face of when they're being victimized. Speak up about injustice. I 1,000,000% feel that and encourage you to do that. And at the same time, I've been very grateful to be in a focus on building. I do think that it's been neglected for people. People haven't learned a lot of times how to build their own things, and there's a lot that we're often reacting to. My experience is getting together with people based on common ground, based on shared needs and shared dreams and shared goals. We tend to find our common ground first and get to know each other in a way that we don't necessarily even know that we have bigger differences until later when we can handle it. And I have seen it over and over, and I'll share examples. I'm not just going to give you platitudes, I promise. But I have seen over and over where people find their common ground and they let the other things fall away. The things they thought were big disagreements feel differently, and people can get at least a better sense of where each other is coming from sometimes, or can choose to focus on what they have in common and not not the things that divide them. But I do see people finding their way to seeing really what's similar about people across what they perceive as big differences before. And I'm just going to say where we plug into displaced failing systems. Again, I mean, it's almost an advantage that I have not trusted our government for a very long time, and I have not felt that we can count on the government to support us and to give us the kinds of systems that we hope to live in. And fortunately, we can do these things ourselves. So I've often described our work as a do-it-ourselves community economy. So I love this Buckminster Fuller quote: "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." Another way I've said it before is we can change the rules and play to win. If you play the game that's rigged against you, it's not you're not going to have as great a chance of success. But we have a game that's way more fun, and it's about inviting everyone to join our team, find joyful, nourishing reasons to engage together. So going on to principles. Mutual aid has the word mutual in it for a reason, and it's become very easy to get it mixed up with charity. So back to when COVID response, when the term mutual aid was used a lot in COVID response, one of the things I saw happening a lot is people just giving out Cash App links and asking for money when they need it. It is great to support people with money when they need it. There's nothing wrong with that. But an aspect of mutual aid is being able to engage in reciprocity, being able and willing to engage as an equal or as a peer in a network of support. So one of the things that I think of a lot is the human service or social service system, or the charity model, or if you're thinking about, again, nothing wrong with charity, but often it breaks society down into people who serve and people who are served. There are often some of the same dominant dynamics in that. The people who serve have money more typically. They more typically have are white or upper middle class or have grown up in a culture where that is ingrained in them. All that stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. But one of the things about mutual aid and the mutuality is giving everyone a chance to offer their gifts, giving everyone a chance to be valued and recognized for what they have to offer, giving everyone a chance to be vulnerable and express their needs and be vulnerable to inviting other people to meet their needs. So solidarity is we do things with each other. My world and the success of my world is bound up in your success. My happiness is bound up in your happiness, and vice versa. So there are some serious principles that I think are really important anytime that you're starting any kind of mutual aid effort or joining a mutual aid effort or anything. I think it's very helpful to establish what your principles are, and know going into any project what you want to be doing. So I'm just going to share a couple examples of principles. I'm about to tell you about time banking, which is a world that I've operated in a lot. Our mutual aid network was born out of our time bank. Time banking is a system where we exchange time instead of money. And I will share more details about that. That basically everyone joins into a network of mutual aid. We say what we offer to each other and we say what we need. And every hour someone spends helping another member, they get an hour of credit in their account and they can get help from anyone else. The point isn't about the numbers in the accounts. The point is to make it easy for people to connect and help each other out. So time banking has its own core principles, which are very helpful to know. And when I started a time bank, when I had questions about how we should proceed, I could go back to the core principles and they would answer the questions for me. So in time banking, everyone has something to offer. Everyone needs reciprocity. Everybody, all work is valuable. So one of the things that we see in the dominant economy or the exploitation economy is, for example, caregiving is very degraded. It's hard to get care. When people do get a job in caregiving, it's often underpaid and overworked. So one example. Or you have to take care of people because you're the only one around and they need care and you love them. So that's one example of a kind of work that's been devalued, where time banking and mutual aid are about valuing those kinds of work. Creativity tends to be devalued often, civic engagement. So all of these things are things that we can foster. We can create economic and community life that does value these things. And I'll get into how, don't worry. So also other principles in time banking are social networks and community are essential, that everyone deserves respect. Our mutual aid networks, we took those same principles and we added to them. So we also use principles from governance of the commons, that it's important to be clear on who is sharing a resource, who's watching over this park, who's responsible for it. If someone violates our agreements, what are the practices for resolving conflict? And maybe ultimately someone can't be in that same network anymore because they aren't respecting agreements. All these principles are really essential to just be clear on when you're starting to embark on any kind of mutual aid effort with people. There are fundamental principles. I know that Indivisible recommended that you read Dean Spade's Introduction to Mutual Aid, and you will learn a lot about principles and philosophy underpinning mutual aid. It's great to familiarize yourself with that. And the more explicitly we communicate about things, the better. That's one of the big things that I've learned. So I would like you to spend a moment thinking about the mutual in your mutual aid dreams. So I've seen a lot of really great project proposals that people are putting in here. So great, great work. It's very exciting to see what people want to do. Um, and that people are really looking to step up to meet the moment. So that is absolutely beautiful. I would like you to think about your own needs and what you need. What do you need that's sparking you? And I'm gonna have them open the chat so you can type about this. So what is sparking you to want to be here? What needs do you have? And you're welcome to think about needs for meaning, your need for belonging, your need for social connection. But you can also think about very material needs. Like, for example, a huge motivation for me is I need something better to look forward to in my old age than what's been offered up to me. So I need to create something where I can be supported in my old age without having to just stockpile a bunch of money and go to a nursing home. So that's my need. So, what are your needs? I'm excited to read about them. Oh, they go so fast. Friendship, better world for all of us. Learning Spanish, excellent. This is great range of things. Better vision, community, safety, collaboration, creating a fund, justice for all, justice and equality, safety and survival. Wow, they're going so fast. Able to work and not feel exploited. Yes, absolutely. Community and caregiving, care for others, bodily autonomy. All right, food and housing security. And how do we move forward to improve the political reality we live in? So I am going to say a bit about that. Not a ton, but um, one of the things that I have seen, and I suspected that this would be the case, and I have seen it really play out, is when people come together in a mutual aid effort or in any kind of effort. Um, if there's a values basis and if it's something that they're focusing on, we do build constituencies that way. So actually, Kim mentioned that we are part of a global network. We have a global constituency now of people who we know have the same core principles at heart and who are willing to go and act on them. And now we can support each other in different ways with letter writing campaigns. We can support each other by working together on something that meets a material need. And I'll share because we are doing some of that. We can advocate for each other. Here, there's an example. One of our partners who runs a tech platform that we're participating with. Uh, so they're based on the island of Reunion off of South Africa. And they have a lot of different types of projects that can find each other based on who's doing similar work. A whole bunch of different projects working on health of the marine ecosystem. We're all isolated, small local projects. They found each other and were able to figure out some serious advocacy to improve the policies to support the marine health that they were working on. So it's an example of how doing your own project based on your own location or based on your own purpose can help you link in ways to, first of all, understand the political landscape better. I will say again, I've shared that it's been a long time since I had any trust in our government. And it's really important to remember how much propaganda is getting thrown at us all the time. So I don't necessarily believe the set of lies, like I don't know what set of lies to believe and if there are any of them that are true. I'm sure that there are some, but I don't think we actually know exactly what's happening. And I think if we can establish a bit of not knowing together and being able to have more dialogue and again get rooted in the commonality. So I'm going to spell out what I think are the common values for most people. I think most people want to live themselves in peace and harmony and adequate abundance, at least. And people want their kids to be safe. And people often in this current climate might have really different ideas about exactly what that looks like. And that's okay. Our view and what we have aimed to structure in our version of mutual aid networks is to create networks that are designed to lift people up to their highest and best selves. And I have seen this happen a lot. So my experience, usually, of course, not all the time, but my experience has been people tend to live up or down to your expectations of them. And when we look at the current economy with how competitive it is, how much scarcity there is, how much surveillance there is, how many behaviors have been criminalized, how many people have been criminalized, how many people have been disregarded, that is really ripe for shifting that. But if you look at that economy and just look at how that drives behavior, it's a very powerful force. And people are constantly being pushed into more difficult behaviors and more complicated situations. So again, we are looking to engage in economic and community and social life that paddles from the other side of the canoe and that creates different dynamics to facilitate better behaviors for people. So, all right. Well, these are some really excellent. Oh, someone needs their plants watered while they're out of town. That is a perfect kind of need to express because that is a nice, simple thing that someone can plug into and get a chance to offer a gift and find their own way into mutual aid. So these are very cool answers. Some of the things people are looking for are already available in our big mutual aid network. So I'm not going to see all your answers, and I'm just going to invite people to, if something needs to be brought to my attention, I'll invite the hosts to do that. I'm going to move into the practices now. So here are some practices of mutual aid. So I wanted to share that a one-time thing is great. There's nothing wrong with doing a one-off a swap, for example, where you a clothing swap where you bring clothes or toys or puzzles. I saw recently a puzzle exchange so people could share puzzles that they were finished with. A one-time thing is great. Wherever you are in your life, in your community, in your readiness to start something, my aim is to help you take your next right step. So it might be a baby step, and that's great. It might be a giant step, and that's great too. Wherever you are, whoever you are, there is a place for you in finding your mutual aid route. Oops, sorry. Just have to move the chat out of the way now. So this slide that I keep going off of, practices. Just going to share a few practices. We're not going to go in a lot of depth, but you're welcome to ask if you have burning questions. I don't want to leave anyone behind. We came up with this upside down pyramid of abundance framework because it's just easy to grasp and it's been an easy way to think about things. But when I'm referring to the fact that that the dominant economy drives a lot of difficult behaviors, it drives a lot of systems that are not very healthy. The way the economy is structured right now, money is lent out into existence at interest from private banks. So it is built, when you pay interest, you're paying from people who had to borrow money to people who could lend money. It widens the gap between people who have and people who don't. It's built into the system unavoidably. And then there are the whole other things where some people start with access to money and other people don't. There are some institutions who decide who's worthy of getting money, what projects are worthy of getting money. They can be very helpful, but we need to not be so reliant on them. So the way we started thinking about it is looking for the most abundance. What creates the most abundance? Sharing. So I mentioned that I started my mutual aid efforts at 20 years ago now. I started a time bank, and I'll go into time banking a little bit more with this slide. Um, and time banking is great, where we're exchanging time instead of money. Everyone's time is valued equally. But I realized to make a time bank, I made a nonprofit organization and we got funding and it was very helpful. But then we always had to be very focused on people actually transacting their time credits, actually making an exchange and then claiming your hours and spending hours with someone else. One of the things that happens all the time in time banks, so there have been time banks in this modern form that they're in since the 1980s, and people have always shared time since time immemorial. So I don't want to act like it's a brand new thing, but there's a modern form of time banking that's taken hold since the 1980s, and there have been hundreds or thousands of time banks at the peak, and they are in 40 countries around the world. So time banking is a big practice, and it's great. I love it. And I realized that it was really missing a whole component of sharing. So in time banks, people often create relationships and then don't want to record their hours anymore because they get to know each other and they have the informal relationship and people do what each other needs. And that is beautiful. What I realized is a bit problematic to have a nonprofit organization where we have to make things transactional. So part of why we created this form of mutual aid networks is to be able to have more of a place for sharing. So sharing can be as simple as I let people use my washer and dryer. Or here in Madison, we have a Everywhere Gardens project where some people have gardens that they aren't maintaining as much as they want to. So gardeners can go work on their gardens and we share the produce. Actually, I just came from, well, I'll give the examples in the next slide. But so we wanted to create more of a space for sharing at the center of it, which is to facilitate the most abundance. Next most abundance, exchange time for time or exchange stuff for stuff. So I already mentioned like a clothes swap or a stuff swap or a puzzle exchange. Other forms of credit, we can have friendlier economic tools in local business. So they're all parts of our economy that we would like to facilitate having a friendlier economic underpinning. We also are practicing with pooling money. So already mentioned, a lot of people don't have access to money. We have a little money pool here where people have gotten, we put savings together in an account and we just have a few people to start, but we have some savings in an account. And if people need a no interest loan, they come and ask us and we give a little loan and they pay it back. And that's still our savings. They pay it back a little bit more and then it's their savings and they can loan some out. So it's very pay it forward and way to practice having a different kind of approach to money, a different dynamic to the dollars that we are using. And then we've recently added this community supportive entrepreneurship because we do see ways that these forms of mutual aid can spring up little enterprises that fill a community need. And then we always say, if all else fails, get an effing job. We don't expect anyone to just leave your whole life and dive all in with mutual aid to support your life. Although, if you'd like to try, we'd like to support you. But there's always, we're all taking our next right step. Nothing, a lot of people have a job that they love, but a lot of people don't. There aren't enough paying jobs for everyone. There aren't enough crappy jobs for the people who need crappy jobs. So if I were to displace some of my need for dollars by using the time exchange and tapping into shared things, then I could maybe cut my hours at my effing job and someone else can have some paid hours there. So these, again, are some do-it-ourselves ways of joyful voluntary wealth redistribution, redesigning work on our own terms. There's more to share about this, but I'm gonna move forward first. So, projects. I'll give some examples in a minute, but basically, we're encouraging people to help create a culture of mutual aid. So I broke them down into small, medium, and large. So a small project would be a swap or a supper club. And now I'll say the example of that. So I just came from our supper club where in our mutual aid network, we want to have a lot of ways to invite people in, whatever their skills and interests are. And we decided that once a month we'll meet at our community center. We invite people to bring whatever ingredients they have around their house. So whether you grew it or whether you bought a 5-pound bag of potatoes and you only need 2 pounds. So people show up with whatever ingredients they have. We improvise a menu and cook a meal together. So it builds people's skills and working together on the fly. We eat together. People are invited to just drop in if they want to. So we want to make it easy if people have kids or if they're coming from work that they can just come and eat. The last half hour, we clean up and pack up the extra food. We aspire to cooking more and more food so we can make the meals available to more people after supper club. So that's another example. A potluck is an easier example where you invite people to bring stuff. Offers and needs markets. This is a particular practice that Post Growth Institute is promoting. And it gives you a chance to get together with a facilitated format, get together with your community and match up offers and needs. So I put those as small. They're not small, they're more one-offs, but just to give, if you want to dip a toe in to show that there's some simple ways so you can do one thing without making a big commitment. Medium, starting a little common fund. It might sound scary, but it's a lot less scary than it sounds. All the things that I have ever started have sounded a little bit scary and intimidating to me. And then I meet the other people who are doing it, and then it's a lot less scary. So that's what I'm inviting you to do is come meet up with the other people who are doing it in the context of the humans or this network or any of the networks that we can point you to. Little free pantries. You might have this in your community or you might have seen it. I know the first place I saw this was in New Zealand, where there's in Littleton, New Zealand, there's a very thriving time bank, and there's a lot of really excellent cooperative solidarity economy stuff happening in New Zealand. But one of the things that was so simple and beautiful when I first went there is there were just these beautifully made wooden stands around where people were encouraged to leave extra food. So you could leave food and people could take food, no questions asked. So then the large things are the bigger, more structured things built to be ongoing and more intensive. So cooperatives, you might be aware of cooperatives. It is a legal structure and a financial structure for it is a type of corporation a lot of times, but you can run an organization that's like a cooperative without being an actual cooperative. But it means every member has a vote and an actual say. It also means every member has ownership in your cooperative. And there are huge cooperatives. They're not all good. REI is a cooperative. I'm not saying that's not a good one, but REI is a cooperative. Land O'Lakes is a cooperative. So there are a number of energy cooperatives that have been, big energy companies joining together to share resources and things. There are some really cool energy cooperatives where it's helping people at a grassroots level spring up little renewable energy projects and then having a cooperative to really support the infrastructure for everyone to do that. Housing commons, there's a brand new housing commons thing being developed in Stroud, UK, where people are working on a vision for shared ownership of housing that can change the dynamic in the housing market. Maker spaces you might have heard of, where it's a space with heavy equipment and they'll provide training for people to use the equipment. And, sometimes it might be 3D printing stuff. I've been to a maker space that had a perfume lab, and woodworking and fine arts studios. So, just to give you a sense, there is a massive range of types of mutual aid efforts. So, I would love to have the chat open again, and I would love to have you type in, have you participated in any mutual aid efforts before? And if so, what? And that can be community supported agriculture, a clothing swap, a family. All right, someone lives in a co-op, time banks, free cycle. Excellent. I am guessing that most of you have some experience with something. Burning Man. Yes, I haven't been to Burning Man, but I find it really interesting that there's no money exchange there and that people can spring up a whole city in that amount of time. Little free libraries. Actually, a person who helped me start our time bank is one of the people who started Little Free Libraries. This is very exciting. Toy libraries. Oh, I love it. Informal maternity groups, plant swaps, common fund, St. Paul Tool Library. That's exciting. Repair cafes. Excellent. Bike repair hub. All right. Buy nothing. Great. Buy nothing groups. Facebook everything free pages. Bicycle workshops. Excellent. Oh, menstrual product libraries. There's some really good things in here. So I really hope you'll take some time to look through these chats later. All right. So oops. Sorry, I keep doing that when I'm. So there's some project examples from Solidarity and Action that you got before this. I saw some mutual aid among trans communities with makeup and support for medical things, and I have seen desires to support migrant communities. I'll give an example of a mutual aid effort that does that in Hull, UK. So, our Humans United and Mutual Aid Networks is a big global cooperative network. You're welcome to join. It's open for individuals, projects, organizations. And we have different sister sites who showcase what they do. And we have this lovely site in Hull, UK, and a lot of mutual aid efforts, maybe all of them, but you've probably heard about Emergence. Adrienne Marie Brown writes and speaks really beautifully on emergence, and really any group of people that meets repeatedly, that spends some time focusing on what the needs are, what their hopes are. People do tend to keep evolving more and more complex ideas and projects. So in Hull, they started with this big feast. So they invited farmers to donate vegetables, and they got a bunch of people together to cook. And apparently, it was just way more than they expected. They were able to feed their first year, they fed 500 people without spending any money. And then they worked up to feeding 1,500 people at once during this big festival. And then they realized they wanted to have a more directed impact, and they wanted to really support their refugee communities there. And I know in some of the places, I unfortunately, I don't think this is as uncommon as it should be, but some places in the UK, people will just get put in a warehouse for refugees and they're not allowed to cook. They don't get a chance to eat their own food a lot of times. And what the Hull Mutual Aid Network realized is that moving the feasts around and engaging people, again, engaging everyone as a peer, engaging the people who are refugees as peers, as the people to share their cooking, as the people to share their knowledge, makes all the difference in the world. So they've been moving to different community centers. People cook together. People teach how to cook their dishes. People get a chance to be valued. They get a chance to share their food and their culture, to start to get to know each other. And even when I got to go there 2 falls ago, and it was lovely because I met a person who's a member of that mutual aid network, and she had really developed a relationship with a family who was here from Syria, had developed an interest in the kid who was not eating because they were trying to they were only allowing them to eat mass produced food. So this person was able to also develop an ongoing relationship and have an advocacy role in a situation where the people are, somewhat more powerless coming into it. So I just wanted to give an example of how it starts from where they are, how it grows based on the need, and it shifts based on the relationships that they're developing. There's another aspect of mutuality that I just really like to share. So, in the early days of our time bank, we got invited to have a information table. Our utility company, Madison Gas and Electric, used to have this fair in the spring right before they would cut off people's energy for not paying their bills. So over the winter, because it's Wisconsin, they're not allowed to stop people's electricity and gas because they might freeze. Then in the spring, they do sometimes turn off their electricity and gas. So people are invited to this big gathering where they can get energy assistance and try to work out how to pay their bills so they don't end up in a bind. And I learned a lot because we got invited to table as the time bank. It was a major deal to be there in a situation where people are feeling vulnerable. They're there because they need something, they're there because they have a problem. It was a major difference for people to come and be able to talk about what their strengths were and what their interests were and what they want to do. And I cannot stress that enough. So when I asked you your needs, it's not just it's not just an exercise. Making yourself vulnerable to have someone else meet your needs is a gift to them also. And it happens on a really regular basis when people are starting time banks. This happened to me when I was starting our time bank. All the people showed up who wanted to help, and nothing happened because no one wanted to receive help. The thing that shifts things, in my view, is when you get enough diversity in participants. So there's different needs and offers that can complement each other. So in our time bank, that really took off when we engaged more people with disabilities. And we found people with disabilities partly by doing activities that were enjoyable for people, but also we reached out to organizations that support people living independently who have disabilities. That's when it started to flow. So there are different proposals for different types of mutual aid networks in the solidarity and action picture, and they are great. And some are about a very specific community that would like to be, a sort of somewhat closed peer support community for people in a specific group. That is totally cool. Other mutual aid networks really want to be expansive. That's what we are. Our mission is to create means for everyone to discover and succeed in work they want to do with the support of their community. So because we say everyone, we mean everyone. So when I go back to our core principles, if there's ever a question about it, that's easy to answer. So we talk about creating an economy that works for the 100%. That doesn't mean that everyone needs to be together, that everyone needs to agree. Far from it. And that's part of what we are fostering is the ability for people to create networks of real trust based on your location or based on your interest areas, and then be able to connect with other networks of real trust when and how it works. So one example is here in our mutual aid network, formerly in our time bank, we have always taken an approach of working with people in a given neighborhood, getting a chance to see what's going on in the neighborhood, partnering with people and organizations in a neighborhood. So it's not like I'm coming in and I'm going to run something in your neighborhood. We only do things where people would like to do it. And what tends to happen is, like a lot of social life, people do tend to exchange and interact more with the people they already know, or more with the people that they're comfortable with or in their own community. But then they have occasion to go outside of that. Like, for example, maybe I need some graphic design. And so I'm going to reach out to someone I haven't yet met because they have those skills. Or maybe it's an opportunity to host a meal in conjunction with a different neighborhood organization in a different place. So, yeah, so some types and examples of ongoing mutual aid. You already have identified a lot of them, but families are a great example. Food sharing, babysitting co-ops, eco villages, giving circles, intentional communities. People might be familiar with asset-based community development, which I think is a very helpful framework of starting where you are with what you have. Um, so, on to projects. Again, I'm not going to be able to give you all the things that you need to start a project. But what I'm hoping to do is help you have a framework for knowing what you want to do. Do you want to start something? Do you want to join something? What is important to you? So, one of the big resources that we use that's quite helpful is a form of governance called sociocracy. And I've shared the link here. I'm sharing the link to the slide, so you'll have all these links. Um, and this is quite helpful, I think, of a framework to think about what you want to do. So, uh, one thing is, rather than start with a goal, start with the need that you're looking to fill. And there's a reason for that, which is sometimes we don't even realize what assumptions go into forming a goal. So if we come with a goal with an assumption that it's going to fill a particular need, we might have missed a step. But if you start with the need that you're looking to fill, why are you bringing together people together? What is the need you want to fill? What is the problem you want to solve? And then going into who will be impacted, and that's everyone. And what do each of them need? What can we do to support the desired impacts? And then I'm not going to go into the rest of this. These are all things that you can look at later. So for getting started, though, these are questions that you need to answer, I think, in order to really get grounded to where to begin. So what do you want to work on? What is the shared unmet need? And many of you already listed something. Oh, I just saw a car sharing one up here. This is great. And then who's already around? Are there organizations doing the thing that you want to do? Are they values aligned? Just because someone's around doesn't mean they want you to work with them, and it doesn't necessarily mean you want to work with them. There are some healthy ways to identify that, and there are some healthy ways to move forward if you want to do separate things. So those are when I'm talking about creating a culture of mutual aid, a big part of what we are looking to accomplish is reduce people's fear of taking risks, reduce people's fear of friendly competition, if that's what it's going to be. To be able to, I think one thing that happens a lot is a group of people will start working together, and then there's a division in what the vision is for the group. What I would love to see happen more is that both move. A lot of times, that both get pursued. A lot of times, when a group's working together and they come to that impasse, they stop doing anything. But how about we do all the things? So those are some of the things. And again, this is the beauty of culture is it's us. We make it. We do it. And there are a lot of you here. It's really exciting to see how many people want to create this culture. So we can. We absolutely can do it. So once you look at who's around, do you want to join them or do you want to start something? How do you foster good working relationships? Like this isn't something we can just give an answer to right now. It's a big ongoing process, but some of what we already went through earlier by establishing your core principles, getting grounded in who you are, getting grounded in what you need, and being willing to humble yourself if that's a perspective that's helpful, being willing to humble yourself and make your needs known and offer people a chance to help you meet those needs. How to start something new. This is what we would like to help with and offer a lot of support. So there are, again, a ton of resources here. I'm going to share what some of the resources are in a minute, but in my perspective, it's art and science starting something new. And I think it's very important, again, get back with the core principles. What is fundamental to you? So for me, I'm just going to back up to my time starting the time bank 20 years ago. I knew, I shared my bio of being an artist and a small business owner and working on environmental and social justice. So I knew I needed to connect those worlds in a way that was functional. I asked our county executive to start the time bank. Excuse me. I asked her to start the time bank, and she said, I'm only interested in helping, excuse me, in helping people with disabilities and people who are aging. And so that was a deal breaker for me because I knew it was fundamental to me to start something that could accommodate all these different sectors. But then people need to help shape something and feel a sense of ownership. So what is open to be shaped? Is it the practice? Is it the legal structure? Is it the membership? Excuse me. Is it the initial projects? How do you share ownership and create room for emergence while staying true to your core values? And some of that is going to be about just teasing out what your core values are, finding out where they overlap with people, and then communicating them clearly. So I put this picture of a seed because a seed has a tiny version of the plant that's going to grow. So the seed doesn't just have a leaf, it's a tiny version of the whole plant, just like an embryo is not just a little foot. I think it's really important to have the idea of what you want to grow into when you're starting something. So it's another example I can give, a time banking example. A situation that arises sometimes with time banking is there's a lot of grunt work. And so one person will get paid dollars and then everyone else earns time. It gets really difficult to go from that model into a model where everyone is supported partly by with time. Whereas if you know that you want to, if I know I want to move into time banking, if I know I want to develop a commons, if I know I want to eventually have several units of housing in shared ownership, that we start with that as the vision, even though we know we're going to have to go little by little. So I don't think no project that I've ever been part of has started big. I don't know how that happens. I think there are a lot of good reasons to start small, especially that it kind of happens naturally. But starting small gives you a chance to work out kinks, gives you a chance to start with a smaller group, build more trust, get ready for prime time before you invite other people in. And it's really important to know what you want to work toward because it will shape how you work toward it. So I'll just give you an example of a short-term project and how it became ongoing. Well, actually, I'm going to open the chat one more time and see if anybody wants to put a project. Do you have a sample project that you want to know how to go from short term to being more ongoing? We have about 10 minutes left of this part. before we start closing out. But I would be happy to see a couple of these if there's something. Oh, okay. Helping the homeless is one. So here's a thing that we really want to do here. And you can learn more about this at our Solidarity Summit coming up. So we are working on something, I'm calling it a housing continuum co-op. We actually haven't even named it. We're teasing out our mission statement this week. But we have a lot of unhoused neighbors at the office building where I work. And our housing costs are exorbitant, like a lot of people's. So our wealth gap in this neighborhood is enormous. And there is no housing first picture here in Madison, unfortunately, yet. And then one of my needs is I co-own a coffee house and I own my house. I bought them both really cheap. They've both inflated a lot. All my money is in property. I don't have retirement at all. So what we are working toward is making a housing continuum cooperative where people can pool money in some interesting new ways. And you can learn more about this at our Solidarity Summit that I'll share with you. But people can pool money and start to buy different properties around the city that can be cooperatively owned so we can take advantage of that economic structure, but that each one can be its own thing. So for example, there is a need for small group housing for people who need support, that they could choose how they want to live, who they want to live with, where they want to live. That people don't just all go into the same warehouse, that people can have tailored places that they want to live. So that's an example. Another example that I'll give is we had the same utility company facilitated a pilot project in our time bank where they taught people to go do energy conservation audits at people's homes. So people would pay hours to get their energy assessment. So I'd give a time bank hour, and Selena could come and give an energy assessment. So she earned an hour. They also got some money off their energy bill. And then the utility company tracked energy savings and found 100% of the houses that had gotten the energy audit were saving at a rate of an average of 10%. So they're saving energy. So what we decided to do to make that an ongoing project is we decided to encourage people to put some of their savings into a shared pool. And then that was going to be managed as a cooperative to get a van and use that van to take young people on outings and do food shopping outings. And then there were other plans to get trained on weatherizing homes and build some enterprise development into it. So again, it was another emergent situation where people got a chance to use time banking, build some skills, build awareness about energy. Oh yeah, one of the things that we did at the time is people acted in an informational video teaching neighbors how to save energy. So it's skill building, it's community building, it's wealth building, and it creates an ongoing dynamic with ongoing ownership. So, some of the things I'm going to offer some opportunities. I think first I'll show this quick little video to wrap some things up, and then I'll share some things that come next. So I would like to help you get started on your projects. So give me one moment here. And, oh, sorry, I thought I was sharing. Do you see my screen?
If it's not working, we can always send it later.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah,
answer?
we'll skip the video.
You want to
Okay, do
answer
you see
some?
this screen or not?
Yeah, we can see the screen, and if you want to answer some Q&A questions, maybe.
Excellent. Um, and so here we go. So tips for I don't have tips for coaxing otherwise reluctant people to join a community response group. I don't, I have not found a good reason to try to get reluctant people to do things. I think the more we can make things that appeal to people and have people watch from the sidelines and come out of their shell, the better. Mm-mm. And the best way to get others to want to help in mutual aid, again, I really feel appealing to each person's need, each person's strength. Actually, one of the things that I do notice is people are modest and people are reluctant to identify and share their gifts. And often just asking someone to share their gifts is really helpful and can really make all the difference in the world. Another thing that really helped our time bank to take off in the early days is we had a member who joined up and just took it on herself to be an ambassador. And when new people joined, she would take advantage of their offers and she would fill the requests. So it's really the individual invitations, I think, make all the difference in the world.
Hey, Stephanie, there's a question here, if you don't mind me jumping in,
It's
about the difference between community response teams and mutual aid. Can you distinguish between the two?
so community response to I have a particular I am not sure actually I'm gonna just turn on my light. I'm not sure what everybody else means by community response teams. I have a particular framework of community response teams because I'm part of one that sprang up when police killed a young man in our neighborhood. And so our community response team was bringing people together to advocate for different policy and support families going through these kinds of things. So my perspective on community response teams is it is a group that comes to react to a current situation and puts their attention there. So, and a community response team could be a mutual aid network. It depends on how they end up behaving over the future.
So they both meet a specific need in a community. One is maybe more of an acute need that is more time bound. Would you say that is distinguish?
That's my experience. But again, I don't know how everyone uses the term. Are there other questions that came up that rose to the forefront? Just because I can
Yeah,
only
I
see a
know.
few at once.
Like, yeah, there were two people that asked about that. Um, let's see. This is about the chat. A lot of people are asking about how to um like engage people who are reluctant, and I think your answer was right on target in terms of appealing to their need and
Mm,
letting them be a bystander on the sideline until they're ready to jump in.
yes, exactly. I think that can be actually more powerful than anything. So this is a response thing. We did it within our mutual aid network, but we I mentioned we have people unhoused that live around our shared building. And back at the beginning of COVID days, it got really intense. So people were living in the parking lot and there were just people with huge needs all around. And someone punched someone else. And so we started peace practice. So that was our response to it. Like clearly people need to learn how to make peace. And that was how that emerged. And peace practice is just a circle that happens once a week where we share tips and we learn about nonviolent communication and we learn about conflict prevention and conflict resolution. So that was a version of a community response team, very scrappy. And actually, we've kept it going. Now we do peace practice in a few different places. And one of the things about peace practice that was really striking to me, and I've seen this happen in a few contexts, but there was someone who was always just on the outskirts, somewhat skeptical and just watching peace practice happen. And then after months, he came and started joining in and just really made a major contribution and made some big shifts in how he communicated. But it really took that observing and building trust and building interest. So I have an issue myself where I'm very enthusiastic and I can really come across as pushy if I'm not really careful. People don't like to be pushed into things. Um, so yeah, so the coercion or encouragement, it's just important to be aware of that dynamic and yeah, I'm not saying don't encourage people and don't invite people who are reluctant, but the more we can keep it in a spirit of open invitation, in a spirit of meeting people where they are, appealing to their needs and interests, the better. So this question I just love. So what if everyone had the opportunity to build their skills to their maximum capability and then apply them to making their communities whole and beautiful? Let's find out. So that's our aim. So here are some things coming up that you're invited to. So the peer support section. Every quarter, we host a Solidarity Summit. So that's coming up this coming weekend. It's on Zoom. If you're in Madison, Wisconsin, which I see some of you are, we're going to host from our home base at the Social Justice Center, and people are making treats. We're going to have a little breakfast beforehand. There is stuff you can do online karaoke with a host in Hawaii. You can get trained on our tech tools with someone in Slovenia and like really dive deep. You can learn about a real project in Rwanda that's really interesting. We have an overall lessons learned roundtable. That serious money for serious purposes. We will talk about this scattered site housing co-op. We're going to do an offers and needs market. Deborah A is facilitating. So I mentioned that as a practice you might be interested in. Come join us. And then it's International Peace Day on Sunday. So we're going to peace out and we're going to have some activities that help facilitate dialogue across different perspectives. And then another Indivisible workshop that you are welcome to come to. And I'm asking some questions so we can tailor it. Kim is going to make a little survey for us. So I would love to give you more of what you need. This is the overview. So I didn't expect to like really dive into helping you get started. The next one we want to dive into helping you get started. And then other ongoing things are in the humans, you can become a regular member and be part of the peer support network. So you can time bank with other people doing mutual aid around the world. You can get help starting your thing, get some peer support and technical assistance. You can pay them hours to do that. Often they'll do it just to help you out. We have a type of dreamer membership that is aiming to work with you on a regular basis and hold your hand to get started. So we do engaging stakeholders workshops, vision to action, which is a lot of what we'll do at the 29th session. What kind of tech tools are available for you? So a variety of things. We have a calendar at mutualaidnetwork.org, and you're welcome to come to stuff. We have things every week. You can come to work group meetings. You can come to drop-in hours. Our goal, whether you join the humans or not, I love for people to join, but we just want this to happen. I have a dream. We all have a dream. A dream we dream alone is only a dream. A dream we dream together is reality. That's from Yoko Ono. I didn't make that up, but she's my hero, and that is right on. So there are a lot of other support organizations too. Shareable, Indivisible, of course, Sociocracy, Sustainable Economies Law Center, timebanks.org, Mutual Aid, Disaster Relief. So I'm giving you these links. They're all in the slides. Do not hesitate to stay in touch. So these little balls here are little networks of real trust forming and then creating networks of real trust between us until we have a neighborly global economy. And then this one last link I'm going to share. If you're not ready to join anything, but you want to check out this map, these are all people who have joined our Solidarity Summits at different points. So there's a lot of cool stuff on here, and I'll encourage you to add yourself on there. If you'd like to see yourself on this map and make connections with people, this is light and easy and open to the public. If you want to go jump right into joining the Humans Network, you can do that too and put live offers and wants up here. But basically, I just am hoping that you see yourself in the whole mutual aid, global economy, neighborly picture. As I see you there, and I really appreciate that you're here today. So thank you, and I will turn it back over to Kim.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And we just really appreciate your knowledge and your wisdom and the global kind of broad view of what is possible with mutual aid and the kinds of like big picture opportunities there are with mutual aid. We know that you all are interested in a very particular kind of mutual aid. You have turned in so many amazing projects, and we know that the specific need that you are interested in meeting, the kind of need that fights back against the authoritarian regime that is hurting people that are, in need right now. You are interested in, based on the surveys that we've sent, based on the projects that you have been turning in, they have been, I tell you, and I am not exaggerating. I have sometimes on a Saturday night sat down and read your proposals, and they have almost sometimes brought me to tears. The thoughtfulness, in creative ways in which you want to reach out and support our immigrant communities in ways that I would not have even imagined. Our homeless community members, our the LGBTQ communities. We gave you a list of stuff, but had no idea that you were going to take it to the levels that you took it. And so we know that you are curious about how do we do the stuff we asked you about. And that's what the 29th is going to be about. We have always done these kind of broad picture trainings, and then we follow up every single time with a learning lab about, all right, how do we get this done? How do we is it brass tacks or whatever the analogy is? How do we do it? And that's what the next session is all about. So we're going to share screen right now because I got to look at the slide deck to remember what I'm supposed to be telling you about. But so that's the 29th. So please make sure that you join us. We're going to send you all of the links for everything. So we're not going to put the links in the chat because we know you're going to ask us for them again, but we're going to send you all of the links. We want you to make sure that you register for the second training. But for those of you who are interested in receiving the attendance incentive for your projects, and just because it's going to be a really good session, that session is October 20th. Tim Wise is an amazing author. We are reading Under the Affluence, Shaming the Poor, Praising the Rich, and Sacrificing the Future of America. And there's also a video that is linked in the training overview. We will also mail that. So that is in preparation for our October training on understanding systemic oppression and privilege. So that is for October. Next slide. Important announcements. I told you a little bit about the projects we've been reading. Within the next few days, we are going to begin sending out the letters for those of you who have been recipients of our first cycle of grant awards. We wanted to send those out today, but we were just overwhelmed by the number of grants. So this week you will be getting an email from us, we promise. Learning Lab on the 29th, letters going out. If you are a recipient of the grant, well, you'll get information on a mandatory compliance training. That is mandatory, just so we can make sure that everybody understands all of the rules for the grant funding. And one more slide as a last reminder. Don't forget on the 29th, And also, don't forget next weekend, the Solidarity Summit with the Mutual Aid Network. You'll learn all of the cool things that Stephanie told you about. And also, on the 30th, this is not related to Solidarity in Action, but we think it's a really important call. We'll provide the link, and you've probably been seeing it. Um, Frontline in the fight. Uh, a very important call by with Randy Warrengarten, who is the president of AFT. She will be joining us to talk about her new book. Hasn't even come out yet. It'll come out like 2 days before she joins us. But it's all about it. The name of the book is Why Fascists Hate uh, Teachers. And it's all about how in this rising time of authoritarianism and fascism, why they attack educators and teachers the way they do. So stay tuned for more information about that call. We'll be including that in the follow-up email, which you should be getting in the next 48 hours. And because we want your feedback on this call, we're going to launch a quick survey. If you would please make sure to give us your feedback on this call. And also, we'll be sending the survey that Stephanie mentioned in the email. So if you would please respond to this call and just let us know. We always like to get feedback. Just rate from 1 to 5 on 3 short questions on how we are meeting the needs for you in the calls that we provide for you. So if you would take your just a moment or so to respond to the slides and give some love in the chat to Stephanie for joining us. We will see you on the 29th. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to leave that open for a bit and say goodnight.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Stephanie. Jules, it looks like we're at